Welcome back, deep divers. Ready for another plunge into history's mysteries?
Always.
Today, we're strapping on our metaphorical archaeologist boots and trekking back to the Indus Valley Civilization.
Sounds like an adventure.
Oh, it is. We're on a quest today, you see. We're searching for the origins of the Hindu deity Shiva. Could they possibly stretch back thousands of years?
Now that's a fascinating question.
Isn't it? And luckily, we've got some intriguing clues to examine. We'll be diving into some excerpts from a text about pre-Vedic elements, things that might be connected to Shiva.
Pre-Vedic, so we're talking really ancient stuff here.
Exactly. We're talking way, way back. But the real star of our show today is the mysterious Pasupati Seal.
Oh, yes, the Pasupati Seal, a classic archaeological enigma.
Precisely. But before we get to that, let's set the scene. Remember, the Indus Valley Civilization thrived thousands of years ago in what's now Pakistan and northwest India. And get this, they were incredibly advanced for their time. Cities, planned streets, plumbing.
It's mind-blowing what they accomplished.
Totally. But even before that, even before those incredible cities, we've got some even earlier hints about Shiva, believe it or not. We're talking prehistoric rock art.
Ah, yes. You can't forget those amazing paintings in the Bhimbetka rock shelters. Those date back to the Mesolithic period.
The Stone Age. So we're talking art from like way, way back.
Mm-hmm.
And some scholars think those paintings could be depicting Shiva. I mean, a glimpse of a god from that long ago. That's just, wow.
It's exciting for sure. But we have to remember, interpreting ancient art can be tricky.
Oh, I bet. How so?
Well, the archaeologist Howard Morphy has a great point. He says context is everything. Think about it. Those paintings could just as easily be hunting scenes, or maybe they're group dances. We really have to be careful about jumping to conclusions.
He's right. Makes you wonder, how much can we really infer from ancient art, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's all open to interpretation.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the Pasupati Seal. This incredible artifact was discovered in Mohenjo-daro, one of those amazing Indus Valley cities.
So does the Pasupati Seal, with all its detail, give us anything more concrete to work with?
Well, it definitely gives us a lot more to chew on. First off, just think about the date. It's from around 2350 to 2000 BCE.
Wow, so that's even older than the Vedic texts, right?
Right, and those texts are where we usually find those first written accounts of Shiva. So this seal could be giving us a sneak peek into even earlier beliefs. And the image on it, well, it's quite captivating.
Okay, you've got to tell me. What's it look like? Paint me a picture.
All right, so picture this. There's this central figure, might have horns or maybe a really fancy headdress. And get this, it's possible this figure is ithyphallic.
Whoa, hold on. Okay, aphallic. Now we're getting into some interesting territory.
It is intriguing, isn't it? Okay, so you've got this possibly horned, possibly ithyphallic figure, and they're seated in a way that kind of looks like the lotus position, the yoga pose.
Okay, I'm picturing it horned, maybe ithyphallic, doing yoga. What else?
Oh, and here's the kicker. This figure is surrounded by animals, all kinds of animals.
So we've got a possibly horned, possibly ithyphallic figure in a yoga pose, chilling with a bunch of animals.
Cool.
This sounds like, I don't know, a mythical rock concert or something.
Well, it's certainly a striking image. It's no wonder those early archaeologists called this figure Pasupati, which means Lord of the Animals.
Ah, right, Pasupati. I've heard that name before. Lord of the Animals.
Right, and here's where things get really interesting. That name, Pasupati, it later became a title linked to both Shiva and Rudra, another Vedic deity.
Oh, wow. Okay. So there's a connection there. And I'm guessing that's why those early archaeologists thought they'd found Shiva?
Exactly. Sir John Marshall, a big name in early Indus Valley archaeology, was absolutely convinced he was looking at a three-faced Shiva, horns and all, in a classic yoga pose.
It does sound like a pretty strong case, especially with those horns. I mean, come on. Horns are like Shiva's signature look. But I'm guessing there's some debate about this whole interpretation, right? What are some of the counter-arguments?
Oh, you're definitely right. It wouldn't be archaeology without some healthy debate. You've got scholars like Gavin Flood, John Key, and Dara Srinivasan, and they've raised some serious doubts about the Shiva theory.
What kind of doubts? What are they saying?
Well, for example, Flood argues that we can't really be sure about the three faces or the yoga pose. He even questions whether the figure is meant to be human at all.
Wait, not even human? Why would he think that?
Well, Flood points out that the horns and those kind of animalistic features, well, they could suggest a nature deity. or maybe some sort of hybrid being, and not a purely human form.
Ah, I see. So not necessarily a god in the traditional sense. What about those other scholars? What do they think?
Okay, so he points out that some of the details on the seal just don't match up with how Rudra is usually depicted. And then you've got Srinivasan. She suggests that what Marshall saw as a face might actually be something else entirely.
Something else. Like what?
Well, she thinks it might be more bovine. Like maybe it's a divine buffalo man.
A buffalo man. Now that's an image. Wouldn't that totally shake up our understanding of where Shiva came from? I mean, that's a pretty big departure from the traditional view.
It definitely adds a whole other layer of a complexity. And we can't forget Askoparpala's research. He found these similar seals in Elam.
Elam. Refresh my memory. Where's that?
It was a civilization that predates even the Indus Valley. And those seals from Elam, they depict seated bulls, not yogis.
Huh. So that lends more weight to that whole buffalo man idea.
It does, doesn't it? And you know, it's amazing to see all the debate that one little seal can spark. It really shows you just how tricky it can be to interpret those ancient symbols. Even Gregory Possehl, in 2002, he concluded that the figure on the seal is probably a deity.
Okay, so a deity, maybe, but Shiva.
Well, Possehl said it's probably a deity, and maybe even in a ritual pose, but he cautioned against labeling it Proto-Shiva. He said that's a stretch.
So where does that leave us? What can we really say for sure about this mysterious Pasupati figure?
Well, you can see how this whole thing is incredibly complex. The Pasupati Seal gives us this amazing peek into what the Indus Valley people believed in, but we have to be so careful. We can't just force our own interpretations onto their symbols.
That's a really good point. We started off thinking we'd found these clear depictions of Shiva, and now, wow, we're left with a whole universe of possibilities.
Exactly, and that's what makes archaeology so captivating. It's not always about finding definitive answers. It's about the journey. It's about how we try to understand the past.
It really makes you realize how much we don't know about the past, doesn't it? It's like we're just scratching the surface.
We really are, and the Indus Valley Civilization, that's a prime example. There's so much we're still uncovering.
Well, on that note, deep divers, it's time for us to surface from this deep dive. But before we go, I want to leave you with something to ponder. What if this Pashupati figure isn't Shiva, or even a precursor to Shiva? What else could it represent? Think about the Indus Valley people. Think about their relationship with nature, with those animals surrounding the figure. What does that tell us? The mystery, my friends, continues.
Until next time.